Okay.
Why don't we jump right into our headline topic today? Anandtech has shut down. They've announced that the company will cease publication after 27 years. 27 years?
Pretty crazy.
I'm feeling old.
That's a good reason to feel old.
I didn't even think about that.
I it was 27
that
years
I started reading Anandtech when it was like pretty established, and it was 2003 or something. 2002, I don't know. Yeah, like 2002 was probably when I started avidly reading Anandtech. The good news, there is a small silver lining here. The website will remain publicly available, and the Anandtech forums will remain active, or at least as active as they are.
For now.
As far as I can tell, I saw a comment that there's no way to register on the site right now. I don't know if that applies to the forum, but comments under the articles, you apparently can't register, but people who have accounts can still comment. So we'll see how long that keeps
the
going.
Forum lasts.
Forums are tough.
Yeah.
It's a tough time to be a forum. Anyway, the site was founded by Anand Shimpi in 1997 when he was just 15 years old. It was purchased by Perch in late 2014 when Shimpi retired from journalism to join Apple. Then in 2018, it was sold alongside other Perch-owned properties like Tom's Hardware to British publisher Future PLC. Former Anandtech senior editor Dr. Ian Cutress has released a video on the closure in which he expressed that Anandtech had been in decline for some time. It's an astute observation. We did need Dr. Cutress to come in and pull out his monoscope and have a look at it, or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean
definitely.
that's absolutely the truth. It's okay. We're going off script now. Anandtech was seriously like one of my half a dozen bookmarks in my browser. Like for me, it would have been...
Dude, Linus, when I first met Linus, if he wasn't working on a video for some reason or working at NSIX or whatever, and sometimes even when he was, he usually had an Anandtech open.
Yeah, like
literally all the time.
It was like my home away from home. Like I had my email, I had NCIX and the forum. I had separate bookmarks for each just in case I needed to shop really, really fast or go to the forum really, really fast. I had Extreme Systems. I had Anandtech. I had Red Flag Deals. At some point when I was doing a lot of trading, I probably had like my heatware in there. That was it. That was like my entire internet world. There were other sites that I read. I read Hard OCP, I would pop into Tom's Hardware every once in a while. There's an extreme something.
This is an interesting
Guru
one.
3D. I liked Guru 3D.
This is an interesting one that I've been seeing a lot of. Phil H in chat said, "I'm amazed that Tom's Hardware will have outlasted Anandtech, as that place has been an ad-infested monstrosity for about a decade, but it somehow keeps going." And that is how.
Yeah, one of the things that Ryan Smith, who was the current editor-in-chief at Anandtech, said was that they were given the latitude to run the site the way that they wanted. I mean, I'm not sure that I entirely buy that, because the Anandtech that I used to read 10 years ago did not have nearly as much like clickbait garbage on it as the current version of the site. But they
might have been trying to...
At least editorially, I think is what he was trying to say. Editorially, they were able to run the site the way that they wanted. And I guess that should give you guys some idea of how difficult it is to run a site that is not just churning out AI-generated or even just AI-assisted lists of products that the writer has never actually ever set their hands on. Let's see what else. In Dr. Cutress's opinion, so coming back to our notes here, this was the result of the gradual attrition of key staff members who left as Anandtech's corporate owners pushed towards more commercial topics that they weren't interested in writing about. I suspect it's a little more complicated than that as well, but I mean, I'm sure that he keeps in touch with folks there from time to time. What few new people were coming into the company weren't sufficient to replace those who left, leading to a negative feedback loop of declining capacity and scope. This then led to declining reinvestment on the part of Anandtech's owners and lower pay for freelancers. Cutress also said that additional layers of management made communicating these issues upwards increasingly difficult. I can tell you as an outsider the main issue for me was that I just wasn't really interested in what they were covering. And I don't know how much of this is topic choice and how much of this is how challenging the space has become. Like there's not as much kitschy, interesting stuff these days. Like I could see if I was shopping for an AIO cooler, like this is fine, I guess, but clearly almost no one cared. But like, what is this thing? The number of like random small form factor computers from brands that I'd never heard of.
That got the most comments outside of the AMD Ryzen launch of anything that I'm seeing on the front page so far. Oh no, you got to scroll down a bit though.
Like, what are all these coolers? Like, was that the only thing that they still had a test bench for? I mean, and it's not just recent. It's been for a very, very long time that I just haven't been able to get into the stuff that they've been reviewing. And you could see, like, when there's something interesting to write about, they're still getting engagement. I mean, I'd be a little more interested in this than I think 16 comments merits. It's kind of cool, but it also kind of doesn't really matter. It's a power supply, and the things are on the edge, and it's going to probably be, like, kind of okay-ish. It's probably not going to be the best one. Like, I guess there's just so many known quantities these days. This was another thing that I had noticed with Anandtech over the years was like Enermax. Who cares? It's not 2003 anymore. Enermax is such a small player in the enthusiast space these days, in terms of how the average gamer might perceive them. They just haven't kept up. And to be clear, I'm not saying Enermax is not a valid brand or that Enermax makes a bad product. That absolutely is not what I'm saying.
The brand doesn't carry a lot of clicks by its own.
That compared to 2002, 2003, when it was Anandtech, Enermax, and Irrelevant, right? Like before OCZ like stormed onto the scene, before power supplies were a twinkle in. Burned out?
Yeah, sure.
Fizzled out? Anyway, and before power supplies were a twinkle in Corsair's eye, Enermax was hugely important. And it's like, why are you guys reviewing 2 Enermax power supplies in a span of a month? So there were times when, I wouldn't accuse Anandtech of, pay for play. Especially because I read Ryan's article and he said that they were left to their own devices editorially. But I would see stuff like this. What is the Geekom A7 mini PC and how could I possibly care about this? How is that out of all the bazillion things that you could cover, the thing that you want to cover? I guess it's a pretty easy category to cover.
Is it also like who they have? Like someone likes doing those and specializes in those, so they're just like it's freelance writing?
I don't know, man. Like, this is a tough one because, like, on the one hand, I hear something like that and I go, well, management needs to manage that person. They need to kind of work with them to develop an interest in something else, something that is commercially viable. And in the case of Anandtech, I'm not even saying like, hey, they should just do the most mainstream stuff. I mean, that's never what the site was. Commercially viable doesn't mean that it has to be what ThinkGeek, what was that? Lifehacker, like back in the day. It doesn't have to be what Lifehacker is doing. It doesn't have to be the most mainstream thing or The Verge or whatever else. It could be a deeper dive, but it needs to be a deeper dive into not the I don't know. Here, I'm still scrolling here, so I'm gonna go back to that last one that I was picking on. Whatever that
I think
weird thing
when
was.
I look at that writer, Ganesh TS.
Yeah.
When I look at that writer, it's a lot of these types of things. So I feel like this might be a freelancer who's just interested in these types of things. I don't know if it's a management situation.
But then the other side of it is like, as someone who works at a place, is it not worth considering if the work that you're doing is commercially viable and will continue to keep you gainfully employed? And maybe this is like old fashioned or something, but when I was at NCIX, I worried a lot about the value of the work that I was doing. Like, I know you're the same way. If it didn't feel valuable, not only did I not feel personally fulfilled by it, but I was stressed by it.
Well, yeah, because you start to wonder, like, if the walls start to crumble, are you the easiest thing to drop?
Yeah.
Right? So you question the value that you're bringing.
You don't have to be the most valuable member of a team, but you never want to be an obvious place to cut.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I look at a lot of the editorial decisions that were made in terms of what to cover and, what was taking up space on the homepage. And it doesn't surprise me that readership fell.
P Kinetic says, if you're a freelancer, do you care? Yeah.
Yeah. Don't you like your freelance checks?
You still have
Where do they come
job. From? Yeah. Yeah. It still matters.
And it's like your portfolio, right? Like if my portfolio, and to be clear, I've never met, I've met Ryan. I haven't met, I don't think, certainly I haven't had a long conversation with anyone else who's on the Anandtech team right now.
To be super clear, I'm not saying it's this person's fault.
Yeah, and it's absolutely nothing personal, but like, as a freelancer, wouldn't I want my portfolio to be someone that I send it to wants to read?
And it's possible this person did and might have wanted to do something else, and they had them on the team as a like mini PC person or something, and that's just what they wanted.
Yeah, but then that's a management issue.
I do agree.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying, as a team, you got to kind of at some point look at what you're doing and go, hey, is this valuable? Is this moving the needle?
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said for, the integrity of, being interesting and passionate about something and single-mindedly pursuing that, regardless of, whether your particular art, because I don't see writing a review as a purely scientific endeavor. I think that there's an art to making it engaging and making it accessible and making it interesting.
I think as well, like looking at this, not going to lie, I think it's just there isn't interesting things. Like they're releasing so many articles.
Yeah.
The stuff's just not there.
Yeah, and like there was some stuff that I was looking at. I hate to pick on Ganesh again because it's like SSD reviews, like portable SSD reviews. And I'm like, really? But then SSD reviews were one of the things that Anandtech really set themselves apart from. Like
when I was learning how to test SSDs, I read a lot of Anandtech articles.
Anand's original review of the X25 series was what ultimately drove me to like get super into them and pay a bunch of money to get them for myself, which is why I made videos.
Is this going to be your
like this? Big... That I got called out for SSD versus hard drives and like SSD buyer's guides and stuff like this. Like
you got called out for it?
Yeah, because back then people didn't get it because they thought that it was all about boot times. So that was why I came up with this idea of putting together like a bunch of practical tests to show people that it wasn't just boot time. So I would do like application launches and game loading and stuff like that. And I did like a side-by-side drag race. Because a lot of the marketing from the SSD makers and from the system makers was just boot times, and I was like, well, that's stupid. You don't boot up your computer very often. No wonder people think these things are stupid, because you got to understand back then the price was so high for an SSD, and we were so used to waiting around for our hard drives that it felt like people called me shill. They called me ignorant, they called me whatever. They called me all kinds of things for saying, hey, no SSDs. But it was actually like Anand's coverage that got me really interested in them and got me really excited about them.
I really think, though, that there's content on here that they're doing just because they need something to fill the pipeline. Like power supplies, there's a lot of them. They're not super interesting to all the viewers, but there's a ton of them, so they can fill the pipeline. Coolers, I don't think their cooler reviews are getting a ton of traffic, but there's a ton of coolers. So you can make a lot of topics.
Part of the issue, I haven't actually thought about Anandtech in so long because I just stopped reading because it got really boring. But part of the issue is that they're still doing a really old school style of article. They're reviewing a cooler. You don't review a cooler anymore. You round up a bunch of price comparables. And they did roundups back in the day, but maybe the issue is that they just don't have the budget and time for it, right? Like we don't know all the constraints.
An interesting. Let's just have a business meeting on the show.
Oh,
why are we doing that then?
So the idea is that to power supplies. Like, are you talking power supplies specifically?
Everything.
So the idea
right now, just for because not a lot of people go to the website. Now we have mice, keyboards, graphics cards, power supplies.
So I think that we definitely need to figure out what our focus needs to be. But I can tell you that the reason that we started with power supplies was it's supposed to be something that we can automate to a significant degree. I don't know how deep you want to get into this business meeting. But
sure. I don't know.
The representations to me about the degree to which they could be automated have been very different from how the situation actually is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we haven't really talked about this much, but Luke is the interim head of the labs right now and has been doing a deep dive into how things are going over there. And why are we doing power supplies? Public service. Well, I need something that starts with a U. Undertaking.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah,
that's the reason. I want to know which ones are bad, Luke. When we do a budget build guide, I want to know if it's going to blow up. Okay, here's something you can't put a price tag on. We did a video recently where
Let me
finish.
Yeah.
We did a video recently where we bought systems from people on Facebook Marketplace. We bought 3 systems for $900. And in one of them, they used a Game Max power supply. Now, in the old days, I would have said, I've never really heard of these guys. They don't seem particularly reputable. But I have nothing to say positive or negative from my own personal experience about the quality of this unit. Thanks to LTT Labs, I was able to say the Game Max products that we've tested have failed our testing. This is not a reputable brand. That knowledge has been now passed to the 1.5 million or so people, or 1.1 or 1.2 million people who watched that video. And we wouldn't have known unless Lucas did his fine work that he's doing.
Not me.
Yeah. Luke. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Lucas. The tall one.
Very tall, very smart.
Yeah. Super cool guy.
Yeah.
If Lucas hadn't done his work, and I believe Oni did the write-up for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And if Sammy hadn't, worked on how the visualizations for these things work, if those people hadn't done that work, we wouldn't know. Because who is out there testing this stuff? Because it's not profitable.
Anandtech.
Well, they weren't. They didn't test any Game Max anything. They just test Thermaltake and Enermax for some reason.
But here's a conflict of interest problem though. We're continuing the business.
What about
meeting.
Linus's framework power supply investment?
That's not what I meant. PSU linked. No, that's not what it's called. PSU circuit. Hold on.
All right, we're on your laptop.
You're not in charge of labs now, are you?
There's been conversations around this because this is PSU circuit, right? And some of these don't get very many views. And now it has been discussed that this is supposed to be just like, again, a community service thing. So, okay. But it has also
not
been
community
stressed,
service. Neither of us has been convicted of a crime as yet.
Oh, no, can you do that without?
Well, I think
it would be called volunteering, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, I think the connotation of community service is that you had it coming.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Because people have been pointing at things like the Seasonic Focus GX750 and going like, okay, this is not the launch. So the launch one got 10K and then they got 2K after that for a little bit, and then they started faltering.
Yeah.
Sama, no one cared.
That Seasonic did pretty good.
But this one did pretty good. And then after that,
Yep. So it's going to have to be a mix. It's going to have to be a mix of basically, it needs to be a mix of the things people are buying
but then like
and
this,
the things people shouldn't be buying.
But this Sama one has gotten some flack. This is internal business meeting. You guys are here as an accessory.
Yeah, we thank you for being an audience.
Thanks for attending.
Yeah, this is actually really efficient because we're able to host a video while also having a conversation that we would have had to have anyway.
Yeah. So this one, there's a lot of reasons to test this one. One of them is that it's the logo and stuff makes it really feel like it's a Seasonic power supply. So it's tricking some people. So by getting the information out there, making it very searchable, all that type of stuff, we're still fitting that category. But then this is getting negative flack because it didn't perform very well. So it's like we have to try to weigh...
are we getting flack because we covered it?
No.
Like internally people are questioning why we're bothering.
Well, with the whole channel, but also specifically with that.
It's going to have to be a mix. It's going to have to be a mix. But then we can't... Yeah.
If it has to be a mix, then we can't stress the performance of the individual videos and the performance of the individual pages.
No.
No what?
No, we can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I mean, did I?
I don't remember. Maybe. We've had a lot of talks. Probably not. I don't know.
I think that the mix that we've had so far has been a little weird. Like the fact that almost every power supply has been 750 watt.
Yeah, that's changing.
Yeah. So like...
I will also credit that, I mean, it started changing before I came in.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's not a me.
I just mean, there's definitely some stuff that we've got to do to optimize the mix here. There should definitely be more, your Corsair, your Seasonic, your reputable brands. I would like to really focus on the stuff that people are buying. Like the fact that we don't have like a Thermaltake Smart 430 watt in there is in my opinion. And look, I haven't been hand-holding this. I haven't necessarily given this feedback before, so my apologies if this is a surprise to anybody, but the fact that we don't have like a 430 watt Thermaltake in there is a huge miss to me, because the number of people that are buying these things is enormous. And we can see that in the reviews on sites like Newegg and Amazon. And what I want to know as someone who is, in charge of recommending products to people is, okay, but how bad is it?
Yeah.
Is it that bad? Like, is it bad? Like it's going to fail?
Does it break your system in a year?
Is it bad? Like when it fails, it could light on fire. I need to know this stuff. And so power supplies, I'd say, is probably the vertical that we are closest to in terms of the vision for how the lab is supposed to function. And I have actually repeatedly talked about PSU circuit as something that I consider to be a win.
Yes, I know that. I've been trying to explain to people why that's true.
Because this is what we are trying to do. And it's going to take a long time for people
But this is something that's really important to slam home for people because of a conversation that we had during this topic a little bit earlier, where you were talking about how people don't necessarily want to work on things that don't do well. So it's really important to communicate to a team that the web articles aren't getting tons of views.
We impacted literally, even if we account for that people don't watch the entire video, we impacted hundreds of thousands of people and made them aware that this brand is sketchy. They wouldn't have known otherwise, because no one's covering this stuff.
That was included in an LTT video?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because the GameMax circuit video got 1,500 views.
Sure. I was one of them. And now I know. Right? Like, that's what we're doing. That's what we're trying to do. And it's gonna take time to build out the verticals that we want to build out. It's going to take time to automate what we need to automate.
There's a lot of that to be done.
There's a lot of work
also
to do.
I know there's been some criticism put towards the lab in regards to automation, because some people have pointed out the more you automate stuff, the more you remove the human touch and you're less likely to catch things and stuff. We're not trying to automate a lot of those types of things, to be clear. And I'm not trying to increase automation in the labs actually necessarily to increase the amount that they can even do necessarily. I'm trying to make it so they can spend more time verifying results and retesting things and doing things like that. So yeah, it's okay.
Okay. I don't think we ever actually ended up finishing the...
I do think it's an interesting thing to consider, though, that pretty much all of the things that you just pointed at for Anandtech, we are diving into head first, attempting to do the same thing.
But what percentage of our headcount is working on PSU circuit?
It's going to be 3 people,
okay,
which is a pretty considerable amount.
But
it takes a very noticeable amount of time.
But is there a benefit to the projects that the other people are working on that do make money to having this resource and to having this knowledge?
Yes.
All right.
But it's just, I'm just saying.
I have a vision. I have a vision right now. I'm having a vision.
And to be clear, just because I think some people might be getting squiggly legs right now, I support the labs project. I'm just trying to push him a little bit.
Look, I'll defend it all day.
Yeah,
I'll defend it all day
because I'm just saying all the criticisms that you lobbied towards Anandtech are the exact same things that we are doing.
But what Anandtech doesn't
planning to do,
what Anandtech doesn't have is it doesn't have LTT.
Yeah.
LTT is basically this like evolution machine. It is taking the feedback from the community. It is processing it through the writing team, through me, and it is constantly shifting and changing. And sometimes it changes forward, sometimes it changes backward, but it's constantly trying new things in order to increase engagement, in order to make sure that this business stays sustainable, in order to feed resources back into the machine that is supposed to build these resources that will in turn make LTT more authoritative, which will in turn bring more viewership and more resources, which will allow us to continue to build it.
The way that I've been seeing it is that some people have said that the LTT Labs team is supposed to be a support department for writing, and I don't necessarily see it that way. I think we are supposed to support, yes, but we're supposed to support the content creation of the company. That doesn't necessarily just mean writing. That doesn't necessarily mean a singular part of writing. That just means content creation within the company at all. That also includes the Labs website, which is technically a separate thing from Labs, but we're supporting the content of the Labs website. And a lot of the ways that we do that is like this constant generation of articles and reviews that we're doing, say, on the website. In reality, do we really expect those articles to make enough money to be like this awesome business within Linus Media Group? Cop cough, look at what's happening to Anand. No, not really. But by doing that, we're going to keep up to speed. We're going to be in the dirt of what's happening with these components all the time. So we ideally know what's going on or have at least a good idea of what's going on, because we'll be trying things out all the time. Will we be able to catch everything? No. But it should keep our level of educatedness on all of these topics up quite high.
That's the goal. And you know what? It's been slow, and we're not gonna rush anything at this point. So it's going to take...
In some situations, we are slowing down.
Yeah. And we're going to take as long as we need to take, and Godspeed. The Anandtech shutting down thing. I had wanted to talk about how one of the big challenges is that there's no money in, the written media format that Anandtech relies on anymore.
I think it's also that the techie space is a higher percentage of adblock users. Adblock hits things like static web ads kind of the hardest. There's no money there. I know there's review sites of more normie things that do a lot better. because lower
tech is going to eat its own tail by automating things to death. And I was reminded of that when I saw this post on r/hardware about our Snapdragon for a month challenge, where someone used an AI generated summary to basically save you 18 minutes. And it's like, you realize that an AI can't use these laptops in a real world situation and then report on that unless someone is actually doing the work.
Yep.
Good luck, everybody.
Yep.
That's a weird community.
Yeah.
It's super weird. How sort of tentative and scared people have to be to say, I thought it was a good video there. Man, the tribalism is it's
real.
it's a whole thing. Anyway, good luck, everybody.